There's something that often doesn't work about having an event occur as part of your number one issue. It's possible, and Marvel's stepped into it from time to time, but Mighty Avengers, when it relaunched for the second-ish time, at first it relaunched during Infinity, and then it immediately kind of took a left turn into Inhumanity, and then Original Sin, and then finally stopped because of Axis, and then relaunched during Axis. So if you're keeping track at home, this is Mighty Avengers had 14 issues in its first run, so we're going to talk about now, and all but five of those issues, well, five or six, depending on how you count, less than half of those issues were tied into another event. So let's see how this goes. Hey everybody, this is Perch. Mighty Avengers had been originally kind of geared as the corporate or the SHIELD team spinning out of Civil War, Iron Man and Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, who were leading up that team. This time, Mighty Avengers comes at the conclusion of Brian Michael Bendis' run, and at the same time, we've got Uncanny Avengers with that format. We've got Jonathan Hickman's 2 Avengers titles, and 3, depending on Avengers World. And so as Infinity is going, this is the first kind of big inner line event. I was struggling with the words there. They decided, hey, let's launch another one. So this one's by Al Ewing and Greg Land. Greg Land, who gets knocked for doing tracing and other things. And it's normally not bad, but there's a couple panels on here that get super weird with just the smiles. I mean, Greg Land is a machine in that he gets work out very quickly. His expressions and that stuff doesn't bother me as much, but every now and then you just kind of wish that he would like get a new mouth for some of these women in particular. But at any rate, the mandate for Mighty Avengers this time is that it's going to basically be heroes for hire, but as an Avengers team. It's Luke Cage doing his own thing, making his own way, but this time with more of a street level team. Except it does have Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, in it, or Spectrum or Photon or whatever she's calling herself in this book. It's got Luke Cage, it's got the new Power Man, it's got White Tiger. It will ultimately get She-Hulk. It also bears the very bizarre timing of, in addition to starting with Infinity, it's also starting and tying in heavily with the Superior Spider-Man. So it's got Spider-Man, but it's Dr. Octopus Spider-Man, and we've got Blade masquerading as first as a Spider-Man, and then as Ronin. And by the way, Blue Marvel's in here too. And there's some new characters that show up as well throughout all this. So this is, I don't want to say it's a mess. You've got Kalu. It's got a lot of things going on, which did not work necessarily to its favor. So as we get into the issue, we're taken right to basically the plot, which is Thanos is getting ready to come in and just, for lack of a better word, shit mix the Earth, because the Avengers are off doing other things. So Thanos is going to come in and he's tied up with the Inhumans and all the rest. That kind of plot doesn't necessarily tie into what Hickman's doing, and in fact, parts of this issue feel like it's being done in isolation of Hickman. Like somebody delivered the kind of the plot point of Thanos is going to come invade the Earth while the Avengers are away, and Al Ewing went and kind of ran with it in his way, but then Hickman came and ran with it in a different way, and this also kicked off Inhumanity with the Inhumans. So there are just a lot of moving parts that do not feel the best coordinated in all this, but be that as it may. So Thanos is going to do something sneaky, but right now it's the heroes for hire, and it's it's Power Man, it's White Tiger, it's Luke Cage, and they're fighting Plunder. Plunder is his name, Plunder is his game, and he sucks. And so him and all his people just get beat up real bad. And just as they're kind of putting everything on top, Otto Octavius, who's the Superior Spider-Man, shows up, and he's really snarky, and he basically calls people interns and, disses Luke Cage and just kind of, when was the last time you saved the world, Cage? I mean, it's on brand, snarky, Octo Octavius, whatever. This issue did do something that was very popular at Marvel at the time, where they had the character names they're introducing, like Luke Cage, Unbreakable; White Tiger, God-powered martial artist; Power Man, wields the chi of New York. And Otto Octavius, nobody knows. This would get more and more campy as time would go on, and the X-Men went into this too, and it became a thing that Marvel was doing. It was not amusing or funny, and I don't know anyone who really enjoyed those captions. Maybe you did. You can leave me a comment below, but most people, it's like, even the people who I talked to who enjoyed it felt like they just ran it into the ground. It became distracting from the actual comic book. But anyway, Spider-Man swings off with the Plunder. Plunder is his name. And Luke Cage is kind of mentoring this new Heroes for Hire. And meanwhile, we move away. And one of my favorite Avengers of all time, certainly Monica Rambeau, she shows up, and she's basically along the blue streak. And he is stealing some cash, cash in a big bag. And he's just rollerblading away from the cops. And Monica Rambeau is basically matches up with him, gives him a little lecture about how fast light is. And then she just destroys him, basically. And she's called Spectrum now. And Monica Rambeau is just a wonderful character in so many ways. My favorite runs of the Avengers was when she was the team lead, and just I thought those stories were incredible. So it's nice to see her back. This comic decides to, at different times, tie in later to the Next Wave stuff and try and integrate that on in. That was probably a bad idea. I like Next Wave a lot, but it's just refreshing to see Monica Rambeau, showing up here doing her thing. And so it's like a character had been on the shelf for a while, and you don't need to tinker with it. You don't need to go into this character, that character. She was in Ultimates by Al Ewing as well. Al Ewing during this time, by the way, had a long string of books that never really got beyond kind of 12, 14 issues. He would just go on the book, and it wouldn't take off. And I think part of the reason why was because he was known for doing continuity stuff, which got him a lot of attention and positive marks from different fans. But he would almost steer into the weirder aspects of continuity, not the stuff that you really wanted brought back up, or not stuff that you wanted to do anything with. He tried to make it interesting, and he's doing a bit of that, I think, with some success in The Immortal Hulk. But in titles like this, The Avengers, where he's got a team book, I almost think it plays to his disadvantage. And I just, as a suspicion, I suspect Al Ewing would be better served on a single player book. I think the multiplayers, the multi-character books, he really tries to get too much going, and then he's dipping into continuity, and he's bringing up kind of these unknown characters from the past, and it's like everybody's kind of competing to get to the panel. And so that's a bit of how this comic feels. It's a lot going on, but it's still relatively, it's a lot going on. At the same time, you got somewhat of a simple story. You've got Luke Cage is holding things down at home. We get some, he's domesticated Luke Cage with Jessica Jones and his baby. Need baby wipes and milk. Can you get, XXX, smiley face, Jessica Jones? It doesn't really seem like Jessica Jones, but okay. And then we got some weird expressions in the background. But just as they're doing this stuff, Luke Cage is not loving his new role as kind of mentor. But while he's contemplating, why the hell am I doing all this, Proxy Midnight comes flying down from space into entry and just starts destroying the hell out of New York. He's blowing stuff up. Doctor Strange is incapacitated. We see Luke Cage. We see Spectrum, Monica Rambeau. We see the Superior Spider-Man. And they're seeing kind of just Times Square get destroyed. Monica Rambeau is talking to a shadowy figure and says, hey, you need a costume here. Suit up. This is Blade that you learn about later. Spoiler alert. So they're all going to kind of go stop things. So they go charging in, and the villains are saying, "Ha, there's a world without Avengers," which is kind of an arrogant thing to say. I mean, you've got, in theory, you got the X-Men, you got all kinds of heroes on the Earth. I don't know. This whole Thanos is kind of scared of the Avengers, so he's using them being off planet as an attempt to strike. I mean, there are other heroes here, pretty powerful ones, some of which are in this book. I mean, as much as the funny part is, Monica Rambeau arguably has the power to just destroy all these people just without really blinking an eye. And one kind of disappointment, we see little brief moments where really superpowered characters like Blue Marvel and Monica Rambeau cut loose, but then it's like they cut loose and then they take a break and they vanish for a while and they give like Power Man, White Tiger, some of these other people something to do. It's not bad, The premise is everybody gets to be an Avenger, even street level heroes. It's a street level Avengers book. There's parts of this pitch that are good. I think Al Ewing was onto something when he put this book together. But unfortunately, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's got Infinity and then Inhumanity and then Original Sin, and then it ends, and then we get into Axis, and it's like, it's too many events in a relaunch in the middle of a relatively short period of time. And at the same time, Al Ewing's throwing in some characters that are kind of new, as Kalu, and you've got Blue Marvel, who hasn't been really built up nearly enough. You've got Monica Rambeau, who's needing some rehab in the sense of, her character been on the shelf for a while. You've got new characters like White Tiger and Power Man that just do not have a lot of airtime. So you've got a lot of new elements here, and then a lot of tie-ins, crossovers. This works against a book. I think I want this book to succeed, partly because I absolutely love the real Captain Marvel. No, Monica Rambeau. I really like that character. I like what she can do. I like the idea of you bring She-Hulk into the mix later, and Blue Marvel's a very interesting character of what she can do. So what he can do. Sorry, there's a lot of pieces in here that are pretty cool, but it takes on an unfocused tone that ultimately kind of defeats it a little bit. But regardless of all that, what did you think of the book? Did you like this premise, the idea of street-level Avengers? Why isn't it just called the Defenders? Who knows? It's the Mighty Avengers at any rate. There was a pitch going on here of like, this gets to be the everyman Avengers team. This gets to be the, how we're going to connect with the city and the people. And that's an interesting concept. But again, it's just too much. It's too much all going with. And so the great ideas kind of lose focus as it goes, in my opinion. So what do you think? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think of this book. Did it show premise and just you couldn't get into it, or did you love it? Want to hear from you what you thought. And then yeah, so like, subscribe. Hey, introduce this to a friend. We're into not the dregs of the Avengers. There's some good books in here, but you're into it where they're relaunching like feels like at least once a year. They're all relaunching. So you got just issue on issue on issue, and it's like, too much. But we're going through it all. I'm gonna hit it, even if I don't get it in the exact right order. I already missed one. Got to go back and get it. So, hey, follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Thanks for listening.